Chick wanted to shame his ex-wife by inviting her to his big wedding. He thought she would come looking sad and broken. But when Goy arrived in a shiny black Rolls Royce with 3 little boys holding her hands, everyone froze. The same woman he once called barren now had triplets, and that was just the beginning. Once upon a time in the busy city of Anyugu, there lived a man named Chick. He was a wealthy businessman in his early 30s. Everyone in the town knew him as a man who loved money, cars, and power. Chick wore expensive suits, drove the newest cars, and walked with his head high as if the ground was not good enough for his shoes. He was proud, loud, and always wanted people to respect him. But behind the big house, behind the gold watch on his wrist, there was a part of his life that made him angry every single day. His wife, Nosi, had no children. Nosi was a quiet and gentle woman. She was beautiful with smooth brown skin and soft eyes that carried sadness most of the time. She had married Chick out of love, not for his money. And for 7 years, she stood by his side. But those 7 years became years of pain, because every month she waited, and every month the news was the same. No child. One evening, the storm that had been building in their marriage finally broke. The house was quiet, the air thick with tension. Goey sat at the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly together. Chick entered the bedroom with a frown, his tie pulled loose, his voice heavy with irritation. 7 years, Gozy, Chick shouted, slamming his car keys on the dresser. 7 years of waiting, and still no child. Do you want me to die without an heir? Goai lifted her eyes slowly, her voice trembling. Chick, I have tried. We have tried. It is not in my hands. Maybe we should see another doctor. Maybe there is still hope. Hope, Chike laughed bitterly. Is that what you have been telling yourself? I am tired of hope. My mother calls me every day to ask why you have not given me a son. My friends laugh behind my back. Do you know how it feels to be mocked as a man with no child? You have turned me into a fool. Go's eyes filled with tears. Please do not speak like that. I am your wife. We made a vow before God. We said for better, for worse. Why do you throw it at me like I am nothing? Chick's voice grew louder. Because you are nothing to me now. What is a woman who cannot bear children? You eat my food, wear my clothes, ride in my car, yet you cannot give me one son to carry my name. And, Goy, you are a curse in my life. Nose's lips shook as she tried to speak. Do not call me a curse. I have prayed. I have cried. I go to bed every night begging God to give us a child. I am not happy, Chick. Do you think it gives me joy to be like this? I am in pain, too. Chick turned his back, pacing the room like a lion in a cage. His anger burned hotter with every word. Enough of your tears. I am done waiting. I will not allow you to waste my life. Tomorrow, I will speak to my lawyer. This marriage is finished. Goey gasped as if her chest had been struck. Divorce? You will divorce me after everything? After I stood by you when you had nothing? After I left my family for you? Chick, have you forgotten the love we once had? Chick swung back to face her, his eyes cold and hard. Love cannot produce children. My mother was right. I should have left you long ago. I need a wife who can give me sons, not a woman who fills my house with silence. By tomorrow, Gozy, I want you out of my house. And Goy broke down, falling to her knees, clutching the edge of his trousers. Please, Chick, do not do this. Give me more time. Give us more time. God can still answer us. Chick pulled his leg away as if her touch disgusted him. God has nothing to do with this. You are the problem, and I am tired. You will leave. That is final. The argument echoed through the walls. The maids in the house whispered among themselves, but none dared to enter the room. Go's sobs filled the air as she tried one last time. Chick, look into my eyes. Look at the woman who cooked for you, who washed your clothes, who prayed for you when you were sick. I have given you everything I could. Do not throw me away like trash. Butchick's heart was hardened. He picked up his phone and made a call in front of her. Yes, Barrister. Okay, prepare the papers. I want a divorce immediately. Yes, she will leave tomorrow. Goy froze, staring at him in disbelief. You called your lawyer already? You planned this? Chike, how could you? Chick looked down at her, his tone sharp. Goy, you are a burden. I am freeing myself. If you love yourself, pack your things tonight. By morning, I do not want to see you here. Goy stood slowly, her body weak, her heart breaking into pieces. She walked to the wardrobe and began to fold her clothes into a small bag. Her hands shook so much that she could barely zip it. Every dress she folded carried memories. Birthdays, church services, quiet dinners. But now, those memories felt like lies. As she packed, Chick stood watching, his arms crossed, his face stone cold. Not once did he move to stop her. Not once did his heart soften. Goy finally lifted her small bag, her tears falling freely. She turned to him one last time, her voice breaking. Chick, you will regret this. One day, you will see the truth. One day, you will understand what you have done. Butchick did not answer. He looked away as if she were already gone. With slow steps, Goy walked out of the bedroom, her slippers dragging on the marble floor. The house that once felt like a home, now felt like a prison. She passed the maids who bowed their heads, afraid to meet her eyes. She pushed open the big front door, and the night air hit her face. She paused, looking back at the mansion she had called home for 7 years. Then she whispered to herself, I may be leaving with nothing, but I will not remain broken. My God will fight for me. And with that, Gozy stepped into the darkness, her bag in her hand, her tears falling, but her spirit quietly vowing that this was not the end of her story. Goey didn't know where she was walking to that night. She just kept moving, holding her bag close to her chest. The street lights were on, but the road felt dark. Her legs were shaking and her eyes were wet. She could still hear Chick's voice in her ears. You are a burden. I am freeing myself. She walked past shops, past sleeping dogs, past women closing their stalls. No one looked at her twice. No one knew that the woman passing them had just lost her home, her husband, and her peace. Her friend, Amarka, lived a few streets away. She was the only person could think of. They had known each other since university, and even though life had taken them in different directions, Amarka's door was always open. Goey knocked gently. The time was almost 10 p.m. Amarka opened the door in her wrapper, shocked. Goey, what happened to you? Why are you crying? Did someone die? Goey couldn't speak. She just burst into tears again and fell into her friend's arms. Come inside. Come inside, Amaka said, pulling her into the small flat. She led her to a chair and closed the door. Talk to me, please. What happened? He threw me out, Gozy whispered. Chique, en. Goey nodded slowly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. He said, I'm a curse. He said, I'm the reason we don't have children. Amarka hissed and sat beside her. That man has no fear of God. After all these years, he didn't even check himself. Goey, you have suffered. Goey rested her head on Amarka's shoulder. I don't even know where to start. I left with just this bag. All my things are still in that house. Amaka touched her arm gently. Don't worry. You will sleep here tonight. You can stay as long as you need. I don't have much, but this house is your house now. Goey closed her eyes and let out a long sigh. Thank you, Amara. The room was silent for a few seconds. Then Amaka stood up. Come, let me boil water. You'll take a hot bath and eat something. Tomorrow, we'll talk about what next. Goey sat there as a marker walked away, her eyes staring at the floor. Her heart felt like it had cracked into many pieces. That night, she couldn't sleep. Even though the bed was soft and the room was quiet, her mind kept going back to the moment Chick told her to leave. She remembered how he turned his face away, how he looked at her like a stranger. By morning, her pillow was soaked with tears. Days passed. M. Gozy stayed in Amarka's house, trying to hide her sadness, but she couldn't eat much. She barely spoke. She would sit near the window, staring outside as if waiting for something to change. Amarka tried everything to cheer her up. One morning, she said, Noi, come with me to the market. Let's walk around, breathe some fresh air. But Nosi shook her head. I don't want people to see me. What if someone asks about Chick? What will I say? You'll say the truth, Amara replied. That is a fool who threw away a diamond because he wanted a stone. Goy gave a small smile, but it didn't last. Later that week, a marker brought up something important. Goy, have you ever gone for a proper medical checkup? Goy looked at her confused. What kind of checkup? A fertility test? Have you ever tested yourself to be sure the problem wasn't from you? Goey shook her head slowly. Chick said it was me. He never agreed to go for tests himself. He said he was fine. Amaka frowned. So you just believed him? I didn't have a choice, Goai said, her voice weak. He wouldn't listen. And his mother called me names. They all blamed me. Amarka stood up. No, this has to stop. We're going to the hospital tomorrow. Let them run all the tests. I need you to hear the truth from a doctor, not from that proud husband of yours. Goey didn't argue. She was tired of guessing. Maybe, just maybe, she needed answers. The next day, they went to Life Hope Medical Center, a quiet private hospital where Amarka knew one of the doctors. Dr. Ook, a soft-spoken man in his 40s, welcomed them into his office. How can I help you, Madame Goy? He asked gently. Goey looked down. Amarka answered for her. She was married for 7 years. No child. Her husband divorced her because he said she was barren, but she has never done any test. We want a full checkup. Dr. Ooch nodded slowly. You did the right thing by coming here. We'll run some tests. Then we'll talk. They spent the next few hours doing blood work, scans, hormone tests. Goey felt nervous the whole time. What if Chaiki had been right? What if she really was the problem? 2 days later, the results were ready. Goey sat in front of the doctor, her hands sweating. Dr. Uche adjusted his glasses and smiled. "Madam, everything looks good. Your reproductive system is healthy. You're ovulating well. Your hormone levels are normal. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you." Blinked. "Nothing. Nothing," the doctor repeated. "If there was no pregnancy for 7 years, I advise you ask your ex-husband to check himself. From what I see, you are completely fine." Gozi covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. I don't know what to say." A marker jumped from her seat. "I knew it. I knew it. That man lied to you, Gozi. He blamed you just to cover his own shame." Goey felt her whole world spin. So all this time, I wasn't the problem. Dr. Ook smiled kindly. "You were never the problem. And when you do find the right man, I believe you'll have your own children. Don't let what happened to you steal your peace." They thanked the doctor and left. Outside the hospital, Goey sat on a bench, her body shaking from the truth she had just heard. "All these years," she whispered, "I begged God. I cried every night. I hated myself, and I wasn't the one." A marker sat beside her and held her hand. "Chick will pay for what he did to you. I swear, Ngoy, one day he will look at you and wish he never let you go." Goey looked up at the sky. "Maybe this is the beginning of my healing." The next few weeks were different. Goey started helping a marker with her tailoring business. She wasn't smiling fully yet, but she was no longer lost. She began waking up early again, eating small meals, and even laughing sometimes. One evening, she told Amaka, "I want to start something, maybe a small food business. I've always loved cooking." Amaka smiled wide. "Yes, that's the spirit. I'll help you. Let's make it happen." They used a marker's small veranda to start a food stand. Every morning, Goy would cook rice, beans, maimoy, and soup. By 7 a.m., workers from nearby offices were lining up to buy. People began to know her again, not as the woman Chaik divorced, but as the woman who made the best jollof in the area. One afternoon, a customer smiled at her and said, "Madam, you look different. There's a glow on your face." Goai smiled softly. "Maybe I'm finally free." But even with the small happiness, there were nights when the pain returned. One night, as she was folding aprons, she turned to a marker. "Do you think he ever loved me?" Amarka looked at her and said slowly, "I think he loved himself more." "That's the only thing I'm sure of." Goey nodded. "I just wish I didn't waste so many years." "You didn't waste them," Amarka said. "You grew. You became stronger, and one day God will give you more than you lost." And Goy didn't reply. But deep inside, something was changing. A small fire had started. A quiet strength. One Sunday afternoon, a marker came home from church with news. "Goy, guess what?" Goey looked up from her pot of soup. "What happened?" "I saw Chick's cousin today. He told me Chick is preparing to marry someone new, a flashy girl from Lagos." Go's heart paused for a moment. "Oh," she said quietly. "He's even inviting some of your old friends to the wedding," Amaka added. "He wants people to come and see what a real wife looks like. Goey looked away. "He hasn't changed at all," Amaka came closer. You know, he might even send you an invite just to mock you. Goey didn't say anything. She stirred her soup slowly. Then she whispered, let him do whatever he wants. I know who I am now. But that night, as she lay on her bed, her hand rested on her belly. She stared at the ceiling for a long time, remembering what the doctor said. You're healthy. She placed her other hand over her chest. God, if you ever saw my tears, please show the world that I was never the problem. And she closed her eyes, not with pain, but with a small smile of peace. Ngoy stood in front of her food stand one morning, wiping the edge of a table with a cloth. The street was already buzzing with life. Children were rushing to school, kick drivers were honking, and women were calling out prices from their stalls. She was wearing a simple gown with a scarf tied around her head. The smell of her jollof rice filled the air, and a small line was already forming. She smiled weakly at each customer, dishing rice and stew into takeaway plates. But inside her heart, there was a quiet war. One part of her was moving on, but another part still remembered the pain, still remembered Chick's voice, still remembered how she was called barren, useless, and thrown out like trash. Madam, 2 plates, please. A man's voice broke her thoughts. She turned. The man standing there was tall, with kind eyes and a calm face. He wore a white shirt tucked into neat brown trousers, and he carried a small black laptop bag. He smiled gently, pointing to the rice pot. Your jollof smells too good to pass, he said. Ngoy forced a small smile. Thank you. Spicy or normal? Spicy, the man replied. Very spicy. I like my food to fight back. That made Gozy chuckle a little. She packed the 2 plates and handed them over. How much? He asked. 2,000, she replied. He handed her a clean note, took the food, and looked at her for a second. You don't talk much, he said. Goey shrugged. I just like to focus on the food. That's fair, he smiled. My name is Emma. By the way, I work at the firm down the road. I'll be coming back often. Your rice has already won my heart. Goey gave a polite nod. Thank you, sir. As he walked away, she didn't think much of it. Just another customer. But Emma came back the next day, and the day after that, and the next. Sometimes he ordered 2 plates, sometimes just 1. But each time he came, he made a small joke or shared a short story. He never stayed too long, never forced a long conversation. But Goey noticed he always made her smile. One afternoon, he stayed a little longer. The street was quieter, and no one else was waiting in line. Madame Gozy, he said, reading her name from the small sign on the stand. Do you rest at all? You've been here since morning. Goey wiped her hands on her apron. I rest when I get home. Emma frowned. You shouldn't work this hard alone. Do you have any help? No, she replied, but I'm used to it. There was silence for a moment. Then he spoke again. If I'm being too forward, forgive me. But are you married? Go's heart skipped. She looked away. I was, she said quietly. Emma nodded slowly. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring up anything painful. Goey sighed. It's not your fault. He stood quietly for a few seconds, then cleared his throat. Well, just know you seem like someone with a good heart. Strong, too. I admire that. Then he smiled, waved, and walked off. That night, Amaka noticed something. Who's the man that always comes to buy food? She asked, her eyes full of mischief. Goey shook her head. He's just a customer. Are you sure? Amarka smiled. Because the way he looks at you. Goey rolled her eyes. Don't start. But Amarka wasn't wrong. Over the next few weeks, Emma didn't just come for rice. He brought gifts. Plantain, onions, sometimes bottled water. He said it was to support the business. And slowly, Goey started to talk more. She told him about her food journey, about how she learned to cook from her mother, about how she used to dream of opening a restaurant. One afternoon, Emma sat on a plastic chair beside her stall. "Noi," he said, "forgive me again if I'm overstepping, but I see something special in you." Goey looked down, unsure of what to say. "I was married too," Emma said. "Years ago, my wife died in a car crash. I haven't tried to love anyone since until recently." Go's eyes widened. "You remind me what peace looks like," he continued. "Not the loud, flashy kind, but the quiet one that sits in your chest and makes you feel at home. I don't want to rush you. I just wanted you to know." Goey didn't reply for a long time. She looked at her hands, then at the pot of rice, then at him. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know," Emma said gently, "but I'm not Chike. I won't break your heart." It took months, but eventually Gozy said yes to coffee, then to dinner, then to long walks on Sunday evenings. And one day, as they sat under a tree near the park, she looked at him and asked, "Why me? You could have chosen anyone." Emma smiled. "Because you are the most real person I've met. You carry pain, but you still smile. You were broken, but you didn't stay down. That's the kind of woman I want beside me." Go's eyes filled with tears. She reached for his hand and held it tightly. "Then I want to try too," she said. They got married 6 months later. A small, quiet ceremony. No big cake, no music, just a few close friends and family. Amaka was the loudest one there, dancing like she had just won the lottery. "I told you," she shouted. "I told you good things will still come." Their new life was peaceful. Emma was soft with her. He made her laugh. He listened to her stories. He helped her expand her food business into a proper shop. Every morning before work, he kissed her forehead and said, "I love you, my queen." For the first time in years, felt safe. And then the unexpected happened. One morning, she woke up feeling strange. Her body was weak. She couldn't stand for too long. The smell of stew made her sick. She brushed it off. Maybe it was malaria. But when it continued for 2 weeks, Emma said, "Let's go to the hospital." At the clinic, they ran tests. She waited on the bench, biting her nails. The nurse returned with a wide smile. "Congratulations, madam," she said. "You're pregnant." Ngoy froze. "Pregnant?" "Yes." The nurse nodded. 3 weeks? Ngoy covered her mouth, tears pouring from her eyes. Emma jumped to his feet. "Pregnant? Are you serious?" The nurse laughed. "Very serious?" He turned to Goy, pulled her up, and hugged her tightly. "You're going to be a mother," he whispered. "We're going to be parents." Goy couldn't stop crying. The joy was too much. She held his shirt and cried like a baby. The months that followed were full of excitement, but the biggest surprise came during her scan. As the doctor moved the probe over her belly, his eyes widened. "Madam, there are 3 heartbeats." Goey sat up. 3, yes, the doctor said. "You're carrying triplets." She screamed. The whole hospital probably heard her. When they got home, Emma knelt and cried, "God, you've done too much. 3 children at once. This is more than I asked for." They prepared carefully. Emma built a nursery. A marker came to help. The neighbors brought gifts. And on a calm Saturday morning, Goy gave birth to 3 healthy boys. Tears flowed freely. The nurses clapped. The doctor smiled, and Emma couldn't stop laughing. "They look like you," he said, holding one of the babies, "but I'm keeping this one." His ears look like mine. Goy held all 3 to her chest, crying silently. "I'm not barren," she whispered. "God proved them wrong." Word spread fast. People from her old street came to see the miracle. Even some of Chick's friends heard about it. She had triplets, they asked. That woman that Chicky threw out? Yes, someone would reply. She even opened a new restaurant. Her husband is rich and kind. Some people smiled with joy, others shook their heads with regret. But Nosy wasn't thinking about the past anymore. She was holding her sons. She was kissing Emma. She was feeding her babies in the early hours of the morning, smiling at their tiny hands and soft cries. Her scars were still there, but now her life had changed. She was no longer the broken woman crying on the street. She was a mother. She was whole. She was free. While Ngoy was learning how to hold a baby with one hand and feed 2 others with the other hand, far away in another part of town, Chake was sitting inside his office, spinning slowly in his leather chair and looking at his phone screen. His business had grown. The company cars were newer, his clothes were more expensive, and his bank account was bigger. But there was one thing that still troubled his heart, something that money couldn't buy. He was still without a child. After throwing Gosi out, he had expected his life to move on quickly. He believed once he got a new woman, one who could give him children, everything would fall into place. But it didn't. He had dated 3 different women in the last 3 years. None of them got pregnant. One even left him after a year, saying she couldn't live in a house where the man's mother treated her like a baby factory. His mother, Mameke, was now older, but still sharp with her tongue. "You're not serious. She always said you're choosing fashion over family. When I picked Gosi for you, I told you to be patient. You were the one who ran her off." Chick would always grow angry. "Don't mention that woman to me again." But late at night, when everyone had gone home and the house was quiet, his mind would wander. Where was she now? Did she remarry? Did she find joy? One morning, while scrolling through Instagram, he saw a picture that froze him. A baby's leg. Then another photo. Tiny fingers holding a woman's thumb. He stared at the pictures, trying to be sure. The hand in the photo looked like nose. The skin, the way she held the baby. It couldn't be. No, it's just coincidence, he told himself, but he kept thinking about it. So he decided to block it out with something stronger. Another woman. That same week, his friend Kunal called him. "Guy, there's someone you need to meet," Kunal said over the phone. "Who?" Chick asked lazily. "Her name is Adora. She just moved back from Lagos. Fashion designer, rich family, very fine, very classy. And guess what? She wants a serious man, not just all those Instagram boys." Chick laughed. "You're selling her like she's a car." "I'm serious. Kunal said she's different. You'll like her." Chick sighed. "Fine, set it up." They met at a fancy restaurant 2 nights later. Adora was exactly as described. Tall, beautiful, with long curly hair and nails painted gold. She wore a gown that looked like it came straight from Paris. But what caught Chick's attention wasn't her looks. It was the way she spoke. confident, bold, like someone who knew what she wanted. "So, you're the famous Chaiki," she said with a small smile, swirling her wine glass. "And you're the Adora everyone keeps talking about," he replied. They spoke for 2 hours about business, about travel, about life. But the topic Chick brought up almost by force was family. "I've been ready for children since forever," he said. "I just haven't found the right woman." Adora raised her brow. "You were married before, right?" "Yes," Chike said quickly, "but she couldn't give me a child." "We tried for years." Adora said nothing. She just nodded. Then she smiled again. "I'm not in a hurry, but I do want children. Maybe 2 or 3. Chick's heart jumped. Same here. Within a month, they were seen together everywhere. At weddings, at business launches, even at church, people started whispering. Chick has finally moved on. He started spoiling her, buying her dresses, phones, even a car. One day, Adora said, "Let's not waste time. If we're serious, let's do it." "Do what?" Chick asked. "Marriage," she said, sipping her juice like it was nothing. Chick stared at her. "You're ready?" "I'm a grown woman," she said. "I know what I want. I don't believe in dating for 10 years. If you want me, show me." That night, Chike called his event planner. The wedding preparations began immediately. Everything had to be perfect. It was going to be the biggest wedding in town. Red carpet, Rolls Royce, a live band from Ghana, guests flying in from Abuja and Dubai. Chick was obsessed with making the wedding grand, not just for love, but to prove something to his friends, to his mother, to the world. He wanted everyone to see that he had moved on, that his life was better without Inozi. And deep down, a small voice whispered. He wanted Inozi to see it too. One afternoon, as he sat with the wedding planner going through the guest list, Chick paused. "Add one more name," he said. "Who?" the planner asked. He picked up a pen and wrote it himself. "Go Ease." The planner raised her brow. "Your ex-wife." Chick didn't explain. He just smiled coldly. "Send her the invite. First class. I want her to be there. Front seat." Meanwhile, Adora was planning her own side of things. She had ordered her wedding gown from a designer in Milan. The lace cost more than some people's cars. Her bridesmaids were already rehearsing their dance steps. Her bridal shower was to be held at a beach resort. To the world, she was glowing. But behind closed doors, Adora was getting worried. She had been trying to get pregnant for months. Nothing. Every morning, she checked her calendar. Every evening, she stared at test kits. All negative. She hadn't told Chick yet. She was afraid. And her mother's voice kept ringing in her head. "Are you sure this man is not the one with the problem?" 2 weeks before the wedding, Adora finally brought it up. They were lying on the bed, going through some photos on her phone. She said quietly, "Chick, do you ever think about seeing a doctor?" Chick looked at her. "Why?" "For checkup," she said carefully. "Just to be sure everything is fine before we marry." He frowned. "What do you mean by that?" "I mean," she hesitated. "We've been together for months, no pregnancy." Chick stood up slowly. "So, you think I'm the problem?" No, she said quickly. "I'm just saying maybe we both check together." Chick's face turned cold. "You sound just like Gozi," he said sharply, "blaming me, making me feel like I'm broken." Adora sat up. "I didn't say that." He grabbed his shirt. "Let's not talk about this again, ever." Adora said nothing, but inside a new kind of fear was growing. Chick continued the wedding plans like nothing happened. He told his friends, "This wedding will shake the city. I want my ex to see what real success looks like." His friend Cunnel laughed. "So you're inviting her to disgrace her?" Chick smiled proudly. "She needs to see what she lost." But Connell looked unsure. "Are you sure that's wise? What if?" "There's no what if," Chick snapped. "She'll sit in that hall and see my new bride walking down the aisle in diamonds. Let her choke on regret." On the day of the wedding rehearsal, Chick stood in the hall alone before anyone else arrived. He looked around the decorated space. Roses, chandeliers, golden chairs. But his heart wasn't peaceful. He took out his phone and stared at Goza's name on the guest list again. He thought about how she used to smile when she arranged his ties, how she made him pepper soup whenever he was sick, how she cried that night he threw her out. He shook his head quickly. "No," he whispered. "She was the problem. She couldn't give me a child. I made the right choice." Still, he couldn't breathe properly. He walked out and lit a cigarette. Far away, Gozy was bathing one of the triplets when her phone buzzed. A marker picked it up and froze. "Noi, what is it?" Goey asked, drying the baby's hair. "It's a wedding invitation." "From who?" A marker turned the phone. "Chike." N. Goey stared at the screen, heart pounding. She reached for the phone, read the invite, then slowly placed it on the table. A marker was fuming. What kind of insult is this? Is he mad? But Ngozi just stood quietly, holding her baby close. Then she smiled, a calm, steady smile. "It's okay," she said softly. "Let him have his wedding." Amarka frowned. "You're not going, right?" Ngoy looked at her babies, all three sleeping peacefully. She didn't answer, but the way she walked to her room with quiet confidence said everything. Goey stood by the window, one hand gently rocking the baby in her arms, while the other held the wedding invitation. The gold envelope was thick and shiny, like something meant for a king. The letters were bold and loud. Chick and Adora, the Royal Union. She had read the card 5 times already. Each time it said the same thing. The date, the venue, the dress code, and then her name printed clearly on the guest list. Go's first row seat. She lowered her eyes and took a deep breath. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking, but something inside her was rising slowly, like fire-warming cold stones. A marker walked in, carrying a bowl of hot pap. "I still don't understand why he sent this. Is he crazy? Or just wicked?" Goey said nothing. A marker placed the bowl down. "Is he trying to insult you after everything he did?" Still no answer. A marker snapped. "Gozy, talk to me now. Why are you so calm? You should have torn that invitation into pieces and thrown it in the dustbin." Goey finally spoke. "He wants me to feel small." A marker folded her arms. "Then let's ignore him. We will not give him that chance." Goey turned slowly. "He wants me to come and cry in a corner while his bride walks in with gold on her skin and a smile on her lips." "And we will not go," Amarka said again. Ngoy looked at her 3 sons sleeping quietly on the rug, their matching yellow honestas wrinkled from playtime. "But what if we show him the truth?" Amarka's brow rose. "What truth?" Goza's voice was firm, that I was never the problem, that the woman he thought was broken is whole. Amara was silent for a long time. Then she sat down. "Wait, are you planning to go to the wedding?" Goey nodded. With the boys, another nod. A marker opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Then she laughed. Ew, that man will faint. Goey, are you serious? Gozy smiled, for the first time that day. Very serious. The plan began that evening. Gozy went to the wardrobe and picked out a long yellow gown she had kept for a special day. It had been sewn months ago by a marker, but she had never worn it. A marker brought out her makeup kit. If we're doing this, we'll do it well. I don't want to look loud, said. I want to look peaceful, but powerful. Say less, Amarka grinned. You'll look like God's proof. They ordered new outfits for the boys, matching yellow shorts and white shirts with bow ties. Amarka borrowed a friend's contact and booked a black Rolls Royce Phantom. The car would arrive that morning and wait down the road until Mosi gave the signal. They practiced how the boys would hold her hands and walk beside her. The twins were a little playful, but the youngest always followed her steps. I'm not going there to fight, Goey reminded Amaka as they folded clothes. I know, Amaka said, but trust me, your presence alone will scatter that wedding. On the night before the wedding, Goey couldn't sleep. She sat by the window again, watching the stars. Emma came and stood behind her. He placed his hands on her shoulders. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, he said softly. I want to. She replied, not to prove anything to him, but to remind myself that I survived and I'm still standing. He kissed her cheek. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. I turned to him. Thank you. You've given me what no man could ever give me. Peace. Emma smiled. And you gave me back joy. The morning of the wedding arrived. The whole city buzzed with noise. Social media was full of pictures. Hash Chick and Adora was trending. Everyone talked about how the wedding was the event of the year. The venue was a giant hall near the waterfront. Long red carpets covered the entrance. Cameras flashed everywhere. Guests walked in with glittering clothes and sunglasses. Big politicians and business moguls sat at the front. Inside, Adora stood before the mirror in her hotel room, her white gown sparkling like ice. Her best friend, Yu, adjusted her veil. You look stunning. Chick will fall in love all over again. Adora smiled weakly. I hope so. But in her heart, she still carried fear. No pregnancy, no answers, and a man who refused to get tested. Chick stood at the altar, looking around the decorated hall. He wore a white abaya with gold embroidery, his shoes polished like glass. He kept checking his watch. Kunal came to stand beside him. Why are you restless? I'm waiting for someone. Chick said, Who? He didn't answer. Then suddenly, his eyes caught movement near the entrance. A black Rolls Royce pulled up. The back door opened slowly. Out stepped Ngozi. She wore the yellow gown like a queen, her face calm, her steps sure. And beside her walked 3 small boys, dressed like angels. The hall went silent. People gasped. Phones came out. Who is that? Wait, is that his ex-wife? She has triplets. The whispers spread like wildfire. Chick couldn't breathe. He grabbed Kunal's hand. Tell me I'm dreaming. Kunal blinked. Bro, she has children. Chick stepped down from the altar, walking forward like someone in a trance. Ngozi walked slowly, gracefully, holding her son's hands. Her eyes met his, but they didn't shake. She smiled, a soft, simple smile. The crowd parted as she walked to her seat, the front row, the seat Chike had reserved for her. She sat down quietly. Her boys climbed onto her lap and whispered, "Mommy, we made it." She nodded and kissed their heads. Adora entered the hall shortly after, her veil over her face. She noticed the silence. She noticed the faces. She noticed Chick standing stiff at the front, his eyes frozen. She reached the altar and whispered, "What's going on?" Chick couldn't speak. The pastor cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" But Chick wasn't listening. His eyes were still on the children, on the truth. Back in her seat, Amaka whispered, "Do you want to leave now?" Goey shook her head. "No, we'll stay till the end." Her voice was calm. Her heart was calm. She wasn't here to destroy anything. She was here to be seen, to be heard. Without a word, the wedding hall had gone from loud to quiet in just a few minutes. All the music, all the camera flashes, and all the laughter had paused. The guests didn't know whether to sit still or turn around. Some held their phones mid-air, mouths slightly open, while others simply stared at the woman who just walked in like the wind had changed direction. Nosei sat at the front, exactly where Chicky had planned for her to sit, but not the way he had imagined. She wasn't weeping in shame. She wasn't looking bitter or defeated. She sat with calm pride, dressed in yellow, glowing like sunrise. On each side of her sat her sons, triplets, boys with smooth brown skin and wide, curious eyes. Their shirts were white, tucked neatly into yellow shorts. One of them had a toy car in his hand. The other two were whispering to each other and smiling. The crowd still couldn't believe it. "That's Gozy," a woman in green lace whispered behind her fan. "She has children," the man beside her asked. "They look like her, and they look like..." "Sheesh," someone else said. "Let's see how it ends." At the front, the pastor coughed again. "Shall we begin the ceremony?" Chick was standing beside Adara, but he wasn't listening. His mind was far. Adora leaned closer. Her voice was soft but sharp. "Who is that woman with those boys?" Chike blinked. That's Gozy." Adora's brows furrowed. "Your ex-wife." He nodded slowly. "Those children with her?" Chick didn't answer. Adora turned her face to him completely. "Chick, are those her children?" The crowd was now completely focused on the couple at the altar. Even the photographers didn't know where to point their cameras anymore. Chick shifted on his feet. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Adora's eyes widened. "You told me she was barren. I thought she was," Chick stammered. Adora's voice rose slightly. "You thought? You told me she couldn't give you a child. You said that's why you left her." "I believed it," he said quietly. "That's what the doctors..." "What doctors?" she snapped. "You never showed me any results. You never agreed to go for tests yourself." Chick rubbed his head, sweating under the lights. "Adora, please, can we talk after this?" "No," she said firmly. "We will talk now, because the entire hall is watching." She turned to the crowd. "Is this your idea of a joke, Chick? You invited your ex-wife here just to disgrace her, and now she walks in with triplets." There was a loud murmur from the guests. Chick looked around nervously. "Lower your voice," but Adora stepped away from him. Her face was filled with confusion and hurt. "You lied to me," she said louder now. "You lied to me, just like you lied to her." Cunnel came up quickly. "Adorora, please, let's go outside for a minute." No, she said. I want answers right here. She looked straight at Nosy. Mama, please, she called out. Forgive me for asking this, but are those boys your children? Goey stood up slowly. She picked up the smallest boy and carried him in her arms. Yes, she said clearly. They are my sons. The hall went silent again. She looked at Chick. Her eyes were calm, but strong. You called me barren. Chick, you threw me out and watched me cry on the floor. You said I was cursed. You made me believe I was less than a woman. People gasped quietly, but I wasn't the problem. And Goy continued. You never agreed to be tested. You said it was always me, but God showed the truth. And he gave me not one child, but 3. Chick couldn't speak. His tongue felt heavy. Adora turned to him slowly. So you lied. You ruined her. You dragged her name. And all this time it was you. Chick tried to defend himself. I didn't know. I didn't mean. You didn't care, Adora cut in. You just wanted someone to blame. She stepped away from the altar. I can't marry you, Chike, she said, her voice shaking. Not today. Not ever. The crowd gasped. The pastor stepped back. The choir sat down. The camera lights dimmed. Chick tried to reach for her hand. Adora, please don't do this here. She looked at him one last time. You're not ready for love. You're still stuck in your pride. I deserve better. She dropped her bouquet on the stage and walked out of the hall, her bridesmaids rushing after her. Chick turned, eyes wide, breathing hard. The room spun. Guests began to whisper louder now. That man is barren. So it was his fault all along and he wanted to disgrace her. Imagine. Chick looked at the ground. His knees felt weak. Goey turned and began walking out of the hall too. Her boys followed beside her. She didn't look back. She didn't shout. She didn't gloat. She walked like a queen, leaving a courtroom with dignity and truth wrapped around her like a royal robe. A marker met her at the door. Goey, you did it. You showed them the truth. Goey shook her head. I didn't do it to prove anything. I just came to be seen. They stepped into the Rolls Royce. The driver closed the door gently, and the car pulled away. Inside the car, Goey held her boys close. Are you okay, Mommy? One of them asked. She smiled. Yes, I'm more than okay. Back at the venue, Chick sat alone on the edge of the stage. His agata looked too big now. His crown felt too heavy. The drinks were still cold, the food still untouched, but the joy had left the room. Connell walked up quietly. Bro, what now? Chick didn't answer. He just sat there staring at the door and walked through the door. His bride ran through the door. His lies had opened, and for the first time in his life, he felt truly alone. Chick sat alone on the edge of the wedding stage, staring at nothing. His white eggard, once shining and smooth, now had folds from where he had slouched. The golden embroidery looked dull. The hall, once filled with noise and laughter, had turned cold and empty. Even the waiters were packing trays in silence. He couldn't feel his fingers. His ears were ringing. His head was heavy. What had just happened? How did everything fall apart in one day? Connell, his best man, came and sat beside him. He had removed his cap and looked more tired than confused. Chike, he said carefully. Chike didn't answer. Connell continued. You didn't see that coming, did you? Still no answer. Connell sighed. She came with triplets, bro. Triplets, and the whole world was there to see it. Chick turned his head slowly. I planned that wedding for months. I know. I invited her to sit there and watch me move on. Kunal didn't say anything. She came not crying, not broken, but with 3 sons. Chick rubbed his eyes hard. How is that possible? Connell leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, says, "That's what everyone's asking now. You said she was barren. You divorced her because of that. And now she has children. Not 1, 3. Chick's chest tightened. But she never got pregnant while we were together. Did you ever get tested? Connell asked quietly. Chick didn't reply. I'm serious, Kel said. Did you? I didn't need to. She was the one who needed to. She was the one without a child. Connell turned sharply. Says who? You, your mother, gossip. You just assumed. Chick's voice cracked. She never argued. Because she loved you, Kunal said. She was loyal. She believed in you. She didn't want to fight. Chick swallowed hard. She begged me not to leave. She cried and said we could still try. I called her cursed. I told her to get out. Connell was silent for a moment. Then he said, Now the truth is staring at you, and the whole world is watching. Outside, cameras were flashing. Social media was exploding. Videos from the wedding were already online. People were sharing pictures of Gozi stepping out of the black Rolls Royce. Clips of Adora dropping her bouquet and walking out were everywhere. Hash and Goza returns. Hash triplets at the wedding. Hash chick exposed. Some comments were mocking. Some were shocked. Others were angry. But one thing was clear. Chick was trending for the wrong reason. Later that evening, back at Go's house, Amarka sat on the couch with her phone reading out loud. Listen to this one, she said. This woman is a true queen. She didn't shout. She didn't fight. She just showed up with God's answer. Goey smiled gently while feeding the boys. I didn't do it for the world to clap. I just wanted him to see. Amaka looked up. Well, now he has seen, and not just him. Everybody. Goey lifted one of the babies onto her lap. Do you think he feels anything? Oh, he feels it, Am said. Pride doesn't protect anyone from disgrace. There was a knock on the door. Go turned. Who could that be? A marker stood up. Let me check. She opened the door slowly, and her eyes widened. O.W. Cheeky froze. She stood up slowly, placing the baby in the walker. Chick walked in looking nothing like the man from the wedding. His shirt was untucked. His eyes were red. His lips were dry. He held his cap in his hands like a schoolboy coming to beg his head mistress. Goey, he said softly. She didn't speak. He looked around the room and saw the children playing. One of them looked up and smiled at him. Hi, Uncle. Chick's heart twisted. I didn't come to cause trouble, he said. I just needed to see you to say something. Mosi folded her arms, her face calm. I ruined everything, Chick said, eyes lowering. I judged you wrongly. I insulted you. I let my pride blind me. Silence. He took one step closer. I believed I was right. I told the world you were barren. I didn't even test myself. I just assumed. Goai finally spoke. And that assumption destroyed our marriage. Chick nodded. I know. I see it now. I was foolish. I let ego control me. I didn't protect you. I shamed you. Her voice was steady. You didn't just shame me. You crushed me. You made me feel worthless. I'm sorry, he said, tears falling from my heart. I'm sorry. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I had to come. He knelt down. Please, Even if you don't forgive me, I want to say it. I was wrong. I hurt the only woman who ever truly loved me. Goey looked at him quietly. I saw the way you walked into that wedding. Continued with peace, with strength. You didn't shout. You didn't throw words. You just let the truth speak. He looked at the boys. They are beautiful. You're a great mother. He bowed his head. I'm sorry. The room stayed silent for a few seconds. Goei stepped forward. Stand up, she said gently. He looked up slowly. You're not angry. She shook her head. I was angry for years, but now I'm free. Chick stood up slowly. Thank you for listening. You should get tested, she added. Not for me, but for your future. He nodded quickly. I already did this morning. Goey raised her brow. Chick looked ashamed. The doctor confirmed it. I'm the one with the issue. Low sperm count. Possibly from an untreated infection I had years ago. Blinked. So, all those years. Yes, he said, it was me. There was a long pause. Then spoke, her voice soft but firm. I don't hate you. I've moved on. God gave me a second chance. Chick nodded again. I know, and you deserve everything good. I'm glad you're happy. He turned to leave. Chike, she called. He turned back. I forgive you. His shoulders dropped with relief. Thank you. As he walked out of the house, a marker came to stand beside Nosy. You're stronger than I'll ever be, she whispered. Ngoy gave a small smile. I'm not strong. I just healed. The next morning, Chick woke up to another storm. His company had taken a hit. Some investors had pulled out. He had hundreds of messages waiting. Some were from family. Others were from bloggers. But the one that shook him was a message from Adora. Don't try to call me. I've gone back to Lagos. Find peace within yourself. I hope you learn. He sat back, holding his head. Everything was gone. But strangely, he felt lighter. Maybe this was what it meant to be truly humbled. Meanwhile, at Noza's home, peace flowed like water. Emma returned from his trip and hugged her tightly. I saw the clips online, he said. You walked in like a lioness. Goey laughed. It wasn't easy. I'm proud of you, Emma said. But more than that, I'm happy you stood up for yourself. She looked at her boys now, asleep on the floor. They don't even understand what happened, she said. But one day, they will. And I'll tell them the story. The full story. Emma smiled. And I'll be right beside you. They stood there, holding hands. No bitterness, no anger, just peace. 1 month had passed since the wedding that never happened. The video clips were still going viral. The headlines refused to die down. Everyone had moved on, but Chick had not. He was no longer the man people admired. He no longer walked into boardrooms like a king. He didn't smile in his suits or joke with his workers. His office was quieter now. Some staff had resigned. Some partners pulled out. And the few people who still showed up treated him differently. They avoided his eyes. They whispered when he passed. But worst of all, he had lost himself. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat well. He replayed everything in his head 1,000 times. Go's entrance, the triplets, Adora walking out. And now, the bitter truth. He was the one who had fertility issues all along. He had destroyed his own life with pride. He sat at his desk, staring at the test result from the fertility clinic. Low sperm count, low motility. Patient advised to begin treatment immediately. The words felt like a hammer. So many years, so many lies, so many people he blamed, so many tears he caused. His phone buzzed. Another blog post. Former business tycoon faces downfall after ex-wife's dramatic wedding appearance. He sighed and dropped the phone. Just then, his mother walked into the office. She looked older, weaker. She had heard everything too. "Chike," she said, sitting across from him. "I came to talk." He nodded slowly. "I know what you'll say, Mama." She sighed. "You were wrong. We were both wrong." He looked up. She continued, "I pushed you to marry someone else. I told you Ngozi was the problem, but I never once stopped to ask if we were being fair. Mama, you helped me chase her out," Chicky whispered. "I know," she said, her voice cracking, "and I will never forgive myself for that." Silence fell between them. She wiped her eyes. "Have you spoken to her again?" "I went to see her. She forgave me. She always had a big heart," Mameke whispered. "Even after everything." He nodded slowly. "But she's not coming back. She's happy now. She has a real family." Mamake lowered her head. "God gave her beauty for ashes, and we destroyed something pure." Chick didn't speak. He just looked down at his palms, empty now. His crown was gone. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Goi was in the kitchen preparing okra soup. The boys were watching cartoons in the living room while Emma repaired the kitchen tap. "Babe," Emma called out, holding the wrench. "Remind me again, do we have enough crayfish?" Goi smiled. "Yes, it's in the blue container, second shelf." He laughed. "You've organized this kitchen like a chemist lab." They both chuckled. There was peace in that home. It wasn't built with gold, but it was rich in joy. As they sat to eat later that night, one of the triplets suddenly said, "Mommy, when we grow up, will we also be famous like you?" Goi laughed. "Who said I'm famous? Everyone was shouting your name on the internet." The second boy added, licking soup from his fingers. Goi looked at Emma and smiled. "You'll grow up knowing your story," she said. "But more than that, you'll grow up knowing your worth." Emma nodded in agreement, and knowing how strong your mother is. A few days later, Mosi got a letter delivered to her new restaurant. She opened it slowly. It was short, typed, and signed at the bottom by cheeky asterisk. "Thank you for your strength. Thank you for your forgiveness. You taught me a lesson I will never forget. I lost a good woman. And I hope one day your sons will know how proud they should be. I wish you peace." Chike asterisk. She folded the letter and placed it in her drawer. She wasn't angry. She wasn't sad. She was simply at peace. Back in Chick's compound, his neighbors now looked at him differently. Some pitied him. Some laughed behind his back. The gardener didn't greet him with the same cheer. The security man no longer rushed to open the gate with excitement. He had truly become the disgraced groom. One evening, he stood in front of his mirror and stared at himself. "Who are you now?" he whispered. "What did your pride gain you?" No answer. He looked out the window far away and finally said out loud, "I destroyed the woman who loved me. And now I'm alone." But far away, the woman he once broke was whole again. She had found joy. She had found love. she had found purpose. And she had 3 little reminders that what others called barrenness, God had turned into overflow.